know that one of the council meetings, they took a picture and I had the ugliest look on my face and I was so close. And it's now in the Fort Mitchell Living magazine.
Nice.
Horrible.
Oh, I'm going back to look now. I got it right here.
Pretty
All
bad.
right. We are on.
All right, Jerry.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you guys for everybody for being here for the first budget meeting. A couple of notes that I just wanted to touch base on before we get started, and then we'll get into making approving the minutes. But first of all, obviously with this COVID pandemic, it's kind of put us in uncharted waters. Everybody knows, and we've had to adjust on the fly for a lot of different things. And I think we'll see some of that as we get through discussions tonight, and reevaluating processes and safety for all the employees and the citizens. But first of all, I'd like to thank all the committee members for all the work, for Amy, for Sharmalee, who's going to be leaving us for a new position, council staff, everybody else that's moving the city forward. We've one of the things that we recently did, and as this went through, is we were able to offer the grant monies to the local business community. We were initially budgeted for 40 grants. We had 34 applicants, and each of those businesses were able to receive a $2,500 grant. And personally, as a local business owner, I truly believe that we support our business community and hope it's reflected in current and future economic development. And as for the budgets, this wasn't on a chalkboard, and we kind of been tossed a curveball here. Well, and as Amy goes through the budget, we're going to see some revenue adjustments in different segments. The fortunate thing, and I was talking to Mayor about it earlier, is we have a pretty diverse revenue base. The retail, hospitality, entertainment, travel, recreation, those industries have been hit pretty hard through the shutdowns and closing of the businesses. But fortunately, we're not insulated to those, specifically to those job losses, but we're not relying on them. So that being said, we'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting, and then I think Mayor's going to go into some comments.
I'll move it if you need somebody to move it, or second if you want somebody to second it.
I need a motion, Kyle. Thank you. Second?
All right.
I can second.
Thanks, Ben. Mayor, you have some comments?
Is anyone opposed to that? And
Oh, yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll keep you honest, Mr. Dethridge.
Appreciate it.
No, I just want to say a few words. Obviously, we've been meeting with the budget, and the budget that I put in front of you, it's nothing crazy. There's no big asks this year. It's about staying within the means. And Jerry talked about it just a little bit. I ought to say that, again, thank you for participating in this. This is something that is passed by ordinance, that we have to have a finance committee, and the people that are made up with this are people that are really, I believe, are stronger in finance than me, that we want to bounce these ideas and bounce things off of you and get feedback to make us a better community. We argued a little bit last year, if you remember, and we argued because the governor kind of put the cities in positions to where, with the rising pension costs and everything else, there was so many unknown things, and I had to do and position myself with council and ask council to raise taxes. And we raised payroll tax. We raised, and Renee's getting on here. I'll pause. Hey, Renee.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Renee.
Sorry, my computer was giving me fits.
That's okay.
That's all right.
Welcome.
So Jerry opened the meeting, and we passed the minutes. I'm just kind of going over just a couple things, on my side before the committee, discusses. But as I was saying before, we had to do things, and I asked this committee to review that, and and then also council, and those things were approved. And one of the things they were approved is by raising those franchise fees and the payroll tax. It was for to offset our pension systems. And I can tell you today, the only thing that I know is our governor did freeze the pension from going up for this year because he knows that there's going to be a lot of offset from the cities. And Jerry was mentioning this, and I want to bring I'm going to try to share my screen here, and I wish I could tell you. Can everybody see that? I wish I could tell you that I was really smart, and I wish I could tell you that I could forecast and figure out the future and read into this, but I can't take credit for that. But what I can do is take credit for what we did last year. I told you for pension, and I still believe in the pension, offsetting, but I want to tell you that our city is going to be a lot more fortunate than a lot of other cities because of this graph. This graph really shows and it highlights the diversification of our revenues, as Jerry said before. 24% payroll and tax. And I want to tell you that the inside there, I just want to tell you some big hitters inside that number. It helps you just so when we talk about, well, what does that mean? People might have laid off. What are the things? Let me just tell you, in that payroll, you have Beechwood School, you have Kroger's, you have Redwood, you have Blessed Sacrament, St. E's, Miramar, which is a very large investment firm, and Merrill Lynch. So I think it's important to know that not only what's in the payroll licensings, but who's behind that. And there's a lot of companies that are behind that, but those are the top 5 or 6 what I read off. The real estate being 20% of our income, and real estate taxes are not, they're set, so that there's not going to be an fluctuation of that. 14% insurance premium tax. And so insurance premium taxes like United Healthcare, State Farm, Cincinnati Insurance, it's all the people that we live within and do business with on our city that are have the insurance, and we get that premium tax. So I don't see a big fluctuation of there. Charges for services, I renegotiated the charges for Lakeside, much as I did, and you'll see this reflected in the budget. For paying for services for our ambulance and fire services. And I negotiated the year before, I negotiated with Crestview Hills. And so those were things that are offsetting some of those revenues. So then you got franchise and miscellaneous. But I wanted to share this quick with you because it's really important to know that, again, and I'm trying to stop share here. I really wanted to share that with you because where we're at, we're very fortunate in the fact that the diversification, as Jerry said. So I think my goal and my job is that not only does the country need to start up, then it trickles to the governors of starting up the country and the state, and I've got to start up the city. I am going to authorize an executive order this week, and the executive order is going to allow expanded outdoor seating for our restaurants and bars of doing that, because they are going to be they have to work within the percentage of indoor seating. So where I can work with those bars and restaurants to add that outdoor capacity, I think is going to be very crucial for allowing social distancing and allowing them to maximize and their success, right? And the people and the personnel. So those are steps that council and I are going to be taking. As Jerry started off the meeting and saying about the grant that we were able to give to small businesses, I think those were small things that helped drive an economic engine that is within the means of this city and within the means of this council. And I'm not going to get political in the fact that whether you believe in this or whether you're not or anything else, I do believe in the curve. I believe in the curve. I believe that there is a virus. I believe that the virus intact is also needs to be reflected in what our healthcare system is able to handle. And I do clearly believe that the healthcare system right now can handle it. So I fully approve of opening up, our nation, our state, and our city. I've been working a lot of time in different volunteer capacities that I've been appointed by our judge executive and through the state, through our health, through the health services. And with being on those panels and boards, the biggest thing is that if we become a hotspot, if Fort Mitchell or Kenton County or anything else becomes a hotspot, that we can collapse, that we can close back in, and to be able to do those. And Andrew, as a police chief and things, I mean, they've had a lot of discussion of how to do that. I want to tell you that COVID is in Fort Mitchell. We were, I think, the second death in the county. COVID is in our community. It's in our residents, in our subdivisions. There are several cases. So it's, and so be it. We're working and we're educated now. And I think we're big girls and boys in the fact that we can go, now that we're educated to do this, whether we're wearing masks or whether we're social distancing, the government needs to get out of the way to allow these communities to do that. And so, not getting off the topic of that, is this budget, we're fortunate to be able to have some revenues coming in. We are going to have some areas that Amy and Jerry and all our department heads, they went through this with a fine-tooth comb. I did prepare a budget that these first responders, I have raises in there, for the personnel. And I think it's important that we continue to pay for these people. I can tell you that I personally had first responders that I know within our city that have been living in a basement, in a garage, away from their families. I do know people that have been exposed, that have had to go on to quarantines away from their families and everything else. So regardless whether or not you believe full-heartedly whether this is as dangerous as it has truly affected the city and the people that have worked here. So with doing that, I just really believe that we were able to stay within our means. The last part of this is we have a park board and we have a park tax. I have a meeting with them. Andrew, what day?
We haven't gotten confirmation from everybody, but next Wednesday is when it'll
Next
be.
Wednesday.
I think we have enough. Yeah.
So, again, the park board has its own tax. In the previous year, they were hoping to use some of that for a park expansion. They haven't yet. It came over budget. We've lessened that ask from them and trying to keep within that budget. But I do believe, because of handicap accessibility and the overrun of our parks, this is still something that I think we should move forward with because of the maintenance cost and things. So you'll see that, and some of that is controlled by us because we're allowing them to borrow money, but others is not, because it's a tax and it's within their realm. And then the street programs, there is still a small transfer, Amy, correct? I know we went through this a couple times, but a small transfer for additional street and road projects. And I think, again, we need to continue to move it costs us more if we don't have these road projects doing that. And it is a separate tax. So capital replacement and such too. I mean, we are purchasing vehicles and doing that based upon the replacement that we've budgeted for and that we planned for years through that cycle. So the committee has my budget, and I know, Amy, you're going to kind of go through the line items, but I thought it was important to at least stress some of those, that if you didn't know what we've been dealing with.
Hey, Jude, have we seen a decline in call volume for emergency services?
Andrew, that
Yeah. So from the police department side, We've had, so if you compare April of this year to April of last year, about a 30% drop in call volume. I haven't done the numbers to see what percentage of that is our proactive, so our traffic stops and things of that nature, and what percentage of that is actual, responsive calls. My gut tells me it's probably about half and half. On the fire department side, they were anticipating an increase in call volume, but I think there's a lot of fear of going to the hospital right now. So they've
Yep.
actually seen a slight decrease in their EMS runs. And on the positive side, they've actually seen a decrease in their mutual aid runs in the last month or so.
Okay. I would just assume that call volume's down, just people aren't moving as much and there's just not as much going on. And then, yeah, there's the apprehension of, even if I call, I'm not going to the hospital anyway, because I don't want to go there because sick people are there,
Right.
which I don't really think was the case. I think we kind of decimated the healthcare system as well around here, waiting for all these massive patients to go crawling in. So it's a strange time. Do we have any expectations on, I realize that real estate taxes and all that kind of stuff is fixed, but, I'm sure we probably have residents who are in some sort of financial constraints. What are we anticipating in the revenue side for that?
So I'm sure there will be more delinquencies. But we looked back at 2007 through 10, and the real estate taxes stayed consistent. They didn't increase, but they stayed consistent. I think there's offset of, maybe some people are doing improvements to their house while others are delinquent. So I did leave it just flat.
Okay. All right. And then the city that we share, there's cities we share services for. I mean, are we anticipating that they're going to get hit? Because we're going to be the last they pay.
No, not really. Crestview Hills is basically property taxes. Well, they've got the Crestview Town Center, but I think they're in a pretty good spot. And Lakeside Park, that's what I mean. They don't have very many. They're all property taxes. Crestview Hills has the town center.
Okay.
But yeah, I think they're both fine.
Okay.
So anyway, do we want to you want me to start?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go over a summary of the revenues. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Charmalee, well, first of all, if you guys do not know Andrew Shearberg, he's our police chief and now acting city administrator. So Charmalee's last day will be Friday, and she's going to be the executive director of the Planning and Development Services. And so Andrew is stepping in for 3 or 4 months until, the mayor does his search to find a new city administrator. So Andrew, not only
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Andrew.
Not only is he a police chief, but he's also an attorney. So he has a lot of knowledge. He came from Kenton County and he has a lot of knowledge and has been here for, how long have you been here now, Andrew?
4 years.
4 years. So anyway, so
All
we're
right. Did Jude warn you about the group he's got together here?
I warned him a little.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Just
No.
so you got the bearings.
I always do my homework.
Okay, so as far Charmalee and I did meet with what is her name? She's from NKU.
Janet Hara.
Janet Hara from NKU Center for Economic Analysis. To talk to her about what she saw with. She's been speaking with a lot of different groups, the chamber and cities, the city administrators, but she said best case scenario will have a 5% decrease in some of the revenues, worst case 15%. And like I said, we did look at the 2007 to 2010, 11, And we had a 4% decrease in 4 or 5 revenue areas for 3 consecutive years. So it was like cumulative of a 12% decrease, but it took 3 years. So we looked at that too. She said that there's going to be a GDP decrease of about 6.3% is the estimate. I think back in 2009, it was a 4.9% decrease. So based on that, we were trying to be conservative. So for payroll taxes, insurance premium taxes, gross receipts tax, the annual license fee, and the bank deposit tax revenues, I budgeted a decrease of 10%. So I think we'll be okay there. I really do. But what, you know, who knows? We'll see. I'm not a fortune teller, so and Janet thought that was a good place to be. Our city contractual services, we did renew in a contract with Lakeside Park, and we did increase that by $175,000 a year, so that they're covering more. That's the mayor did that. That's awesome, but to cover more of the fire and EMS costs that are proportionately theirs, you know, based on number of runs. And then I think Crestview Hills, I didn't pull the contract, but I think it increases about 10,000 or so every year. So there was an extra $185,000 of revenue that we didn't have in this year. Our ambulance billable runs, I mean, they're down right now, you know, because even if the fire are making runs to houses, they're not necessarily taking them to the hospital, you know.
Correct.
So that then we don't have as much billing for that. So that's hitting right now, but that hopefully will, you know, come back up. And we're also in the process of changing our billing company. So there's a little bit of a delay there because we're winding down with one company and starting up with another one. So it's a little bit low in the amended budget, but then hopefully next year it'll start climbing back up.
Amy, there's other revenue too there that in the billing company, we're looking at billing some fire type service for third party or on interstate recs. And then Andrew, I know there's quite a bit of COVID money that we're hoping to get reimbursed for on some of that stuff too, that we're not planning on. Is that both of that we've discussed, but I don't think there's dollars yet.
Yeah, we've applied for grant money, and we've also put our initial paperwork into the state in case there's any state aid or FEMA aid that comes for, you know, overtime costs that we've incurred, PPE supplies that we stocked up on, and things like that. So I know on the police side, we have already submitted our application for that grant, but that's a grant. I'm sorry, that grant's for future PPE supplies, but based on COVID, the reimbursement's still open right now.
Yeah. And the governor, I was on with the governor last week, and they said that they are willing to push that. That was with the Kentucky League of Cities, that they're going to push some monies that the state got to the cities to reimburse them. So I don't know what dollar amount, but again, that's nowhere in the budget.
Right. Yeah, and that was actually my next comment. So they covered that. So so that's basically it for the revenues. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. As far as the transfers, we'll go over those more later when we get into the funds. But we have no budgeted transfers for the road tax in next year's budget. We did budget some for the amended budget. We decreased it a little bit for the amended budget that we're in right now, but none for next year. And, you know, that's built up just because there's road jobs that got delayed or whatever. So skipping a year, we're not cutting down on the road work we're doing. It's just using the fund balance from the road tax and taking that down a little bit. And then we originally were going to loan the park $600,000, and we have budgeted $475,000. So when we get to the park fund, we'll, you know, it's still a I think it's a $900,000 renovation is what they're budgeting for, but the estimates came in higher, so they're having to rebid and cut some things out of it because they don't want to, you know, do any more than they can afford. So they're working on that right now, and hopefully that will start next fall, or even this summer. I'm not sure. Okay, moving on to, I guess.
Well, can I ask a quick question on page 2? Sorry.
Sure.
So utility franchise reserve for retirement increase. I'm happy to see that that's being put in there. But my question is, why is it not the full amount? Because when you said you guys wanted to put it in, it was all supposed to kind of go to that. And it looks like we're bringing in 313.5, but you've only reserved 289.82.
I actually just put in what the increase was in the retirement contribution is what I put there, but I mean, I can put the whole thing in there. It doesn't, I'm fine with that, you know.
But I mean, the whole thing is being reserved for that?
I
Or
just,
is some of it being spent on other things?
so we had increases and we paid some of that. So that's what I used some of that to pay the increase in retirement.
Okay,
So that, I mean, it was used for a retirement increase. So that's what's left over for future increases.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Good catch.
But we did put that there.
I appreciate that, I really do.
Okay. Oh, I guess I should show on page 2, I guess, before we move on to page 3. Right now, we had to change the fund balance of the negative, you know, 476,000, is that what you guys have there? 476,853 in the middle of the page? Okay.
Yeah.
But 475 of it is due to the loan to the park. So just want to note that. So if you exclude that, it's basically right at almost zero, negative $1,800. Okay. Okay, so on page 3, if we go to general and admin budget, just going to do a quick summary of what we're doing. You know, the administrative department is pretty much going to operate as it has been. The raises are budgeted right now for all the departments at 3.5%. Inflation is currently 2.3%. That doesn't mean everyone's going to get, you know, 3.5%. The mayor might decide to do, you know, 3% for one department, or, you know, but that's what's in the budget. And this is just a general comment, but Duke Energy, I read, is increasing their fees 10%. So that 10% is reflected in this budget for utilities. Health insurance came in at a 5% increase.
Or what are we increasing the employee contribution by this year?
You can ask the mayor that.
Yeah, well, we changed the formula, if you remember that with that, we pay for the employee, and then and then there's, I don't have it in front of me, but remember I changed that a couple of years ago. Andrew?
I don't have the percent. So the 5% increase will get passed on to employees who have either a spouse on their plan, children
Right.
on their plan, or have a family plan. So I apologize, I don't have that percentage either, but
We pay for everybody.
we pay 100% of an employee only plan. And
Okay.
then the other plans will see that 5% increase across the board. And just to give Amy some credit here, because I think she was a little bit shy in her statement there, but the initial word we got from our provider was in the 20% range in an increase in healthcare premiums. She went back to them and got them to 9%. and was able to go back again and get them down to the 5%. So just kudos to her for really, fighting for every dollar there with our provider.
But part of it is also our employees are very active in their health and wellness, and they get those points and bring it down. And we're very good at that. There's only just a couple employees that don't do that. Not
Yeah,
just
Do they pay a differential or a penalty for not doing that? Is that
yes,
correct?
sir.
significant.
Significant. They
Okay.
pay it. We don't pay that.
Basically, it's almost 30% the employee's responsible for, over and above just the employee only. However, 15% of it we can get as a rebate if they do the wellness. So if they don't do it, then they pay it. But if they do it, then we get that off our bill. And then that's like $46,000 a year we get off our bill. So that's that. And then they pay the rest of, it's either, I'm trying to think if it's 14% or 15% that they pay, and the other part they work off through that wellness program.
Okay. That's still pretty generous.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on to the administrative department. Currently we have, like I said, we're going to be operating the same, but we have 2 open positions, the city administrator and Janie Patterson, our programs and communications coordinator. She did our recreation program. She left, so we're hiring that right now, and then we'll be hiring the city administrator, sometime at the end of the summer maybe, or early fall.
Are we keeping the rec thing as an hourly wage, or is it going to be whoever you hired new?
Probably going to a salary position because they're doing more of administrative on communications and things. But we're doing a share, we're looking for somebody. I had an interview today and I got an interview tomorrow. The interview today went very well. But they would do it. It would be a cost share, but it would probably be a salary position.
Do we need a rec person at this point? Do we have rec activities?
Well, and no, and that's why I have been very slow to hire that position. But we do need a person inside for administration, and we need somebody to take care of all the communication and such, especially with Charmalee gone. And I'm going to abuse Andrew here. We're going to save some money there, but my plan is not to do any type of search or even start on it until after this budget season. So probably won't be starting to do anything until July, and then probably have somebody hired by August, September, somewhere in there.
And are they going to be
Okay.
doing something else, or is like doing other work for the city, or is it just solely you're hiring a rec person now?
No, that's the community, everything from Facebook to our news. They design our newsletters, to our website, to they do our senior citizen type outreach. They're going to do business outreach. I mean, all of that, and that's what Janie was doing.
Okay.
Yeah, not just rec.
Okay.
And a lot of the heavy lift she did was also the volunteer and coordinating the parade. She was huge.
Okay.
Okay, the only thing that really is different, obviously, there's that grant that we had this year, that's in the amended budget that won't be in next year's. But also on the tree board, we've been doing a Dixie Highway tree removal and replacement the last 2 years. So I think we're going to take a break for a year and let the trees develop, but that gives us time to not spend that money too. So that was the only thing that I noticed in the admin budget. Anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on to, well, I was going to say in the admin budget, it was a 0.3% decrease. I forgot to mention that. Police. Yeah, I do have there's an error in police. So there's some extra expenses that I'll be taking out that it's from an old line item and I don't know what happened there, but anyway, so your percentage on yours says something different, but it'll be down to a 1.1% increase in expenses on the police budget. There is a position that's vacant. It's been vacant since December 31st, so Andrew will be filling that. He is planning to promote a captain in the department. So currently they have 4 sergeants that run all the different shifts. And maybe one of those sergeants, I guess, will be promoted to captain. And you can explain that, Andrew.
Yeah, it's a couple of different things. Number one, it's succession planning for the department. We always hope that, despite the fact that I was an external candidate for police chief, we always hope to have the internal talent to develop the next chief's position. And part of that is, identifying that person early on and trying to get some, extra training and get some of the administrative knowledge passed on. And part of it is to just from a command structure, it makes a little bit more sense for a department of our size to have that structure versus the 4 sergeants. We increased sergeants a couple of years ago just to have a little bit more supervision. And this is just sort of the next step of that plan.
Kyle, I don't know if it answers your question, but as Amy pointed out, yes, we've had less calls. He's been doing it with less people. I mean, we've had an opening since December, and he's slowed that process down. I've actually pushed him a little bit for that process because he's got someone that's eligible, and I think they're going to retire. So what I don't want to do is be 2 people down, and so we're really looking to ramp up of hiring that person. And I think the succession planning was something that wasn't here very well done. And it was lost from years ago. And we've really done a lot of that with the police and the fire and doing organizational charts. So we have the people in-house and we're training them. I think I've told this committee before, for so long, the people were getting promotions and taking the same responsibilities that they were doing as a fireman to a lieutenant to a assistant chief to chief. They just kept the same responsibilities instead of training those responsibilities, and we stopped doing that. And same in the police department and things. So as promotions happen, so do responsibilities, like it really should be. And Andrew's done a really good job with that. And the other part of it is he's not going to have 4 captains anymore, correct? You're going to go down to.
It won't be 4 sergeants, right? It would be a captain and 3 sergeants.
Yeah,
right?
3 sergeants. So it's not like we're adding an actual other person. He's promoting, doing that, eliminating a position, but then he is hiring because we have several people that are eligible to retire, and with everything that's going on, it's really hard. We just sent somebody through the academy, and historically, I mean, over the last 5 years, I've sent 3 people to the academy. And I like to do it every other year to keep some young. And we're trying to hire, rehire people because we don't have to pay in the pension system. So we want to do a little of each because it really helps out. And Andrew's done a good job with that.
Yeah, and that is the goal.
Well, and yeah, I look at police and fire staffing as kind of like an emergency room. You got to have people sitting around waiting for somebody to do something stupid. And so we can't just scale back because the calls decline. We still got to be ready to fix it.
Yep.
So we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. I was anticipating that the call volume would be down, and I don't think we have people just sitting around with nothing to do, but I assume we've also diminished our pulling people over unless they're truly causing some sort of danger to the community, just so we don't have a interaction with a citizen that's unnecessary.
Yeah, and I have to really give my sergeants a lot of credit there that I think we were one of the early departments to sort of start our phasing in of plans to change the way we were patrolling. And so we're still in that plan, and yes, so all that stuff has slowed down. We're fortunate, I guess, in the sense that, with school being shut down, our school resource officer was, he's been on patrol filling in for some of the openings. So that's helped.
Also, the police department plans to hire a cadet who will also do the crossing guard duty. I know we've tried to hire crossing guards and we haven't had takers.
Yeah, no one wants to do it.
No one wants to do it. So if you know anybody who wants to be a crossing guard, let us know.
Yeah, so the cadet will do that, and it's also a recruiting pipeline to get qualified candidates. That's our goal there.
On page 5, there is the error I was talking about on account 01.03.51274 mobile data terminal. That was from a long time ago, and both of those should be 0. So that will be coming out, and that will decrease the cost. Also, I think the only other thing that I didn't really mention was there's one tuition reimbursement request for someone to get their degree. So that is in the training budget of the police. Does anybody have any comments or questions about the police department budget?
No.
No.
Okay, you guys good, Ben and Kyle and Julie?
Yep, keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Fire, they're a little less than 1% increase. We do have in the budget for the full-time employees to receive a monthly phone stipend for their calls, their timesheets, they're using that more than anything nowadays. So they have requested that. The police already receive it. And then there is one tuition reimbursement request for the fire department. And then we have some hose that is damaged and just needs to be replaced. And so we do have $25,000 for new hose and some medical vaults required by DEA. And that's pretty much, I think we're staying status quo. We have 5 firefighters on shift. Around the clock is what we are doing now. And so we started that last year. And so that's what this budget also contains. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
No questions.
Okay. Public Works starts at the bottom of page 6. It's like less than 0.5% increase. So the staffing staying the same. The only thing I wanted to, there is on there, it says 7% increase in medical insurance. So I will change that to 5%. I noticed I changed all the other departments, but that one needs to go down. That's on top of page 7. There is 17,000 in streetscape and beautification for gateway planning and the downtown area on the street.
Yeah, I had a question about that. Do you know what's planned? I mean, is that really something we need to do this year?
So the gateway planning is a project that was already in progress with CT. Unfortunately, I'm jumping in the middle of that one. So I just got the email from CT today that they are sort of ready to show us the preliminary design. So there has already been work done on it. I think at this point, it makes sense to at least finish the study. I don't think we're putting forward that we're going to actually do the gateway work yet.
So that 17,000 is for the study, or it's just in there in case you want to do the work the study recommends?
That's
I'll have
just
to
for
get
the
the
study.
clarification. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
that's just for the study. That's not for any more work. And we don't know, they could be done when we meet with them next week. We could be happy with that. Now we kind of have a master plan,
Okay.
or we don't know. What we don't want to do is stop the progress of what we've been doing up there, so we can plan.
Okay, so, but that's for study work that's already been completed or is being completed as we speak.
In progress. Yeah.
In progress, sorry, thank you.
That's really all I had for Public Works. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Sorry, let me
Yeah,
let me clarify on that real quick. My apologies. It's 12,000 for the gateway planning. I think the 5,000 is the downtown business district improvements. So it is two separate things, just so I'm clear.
My only other question, just in the comments for it's at the top of page 8, outside furniture, it says iron trash. I assume that's recycling?
Receptacles.
Receptacles, oh, okay. I was
There, a
just
lot
thinking
of them
what
are
that was
rusting.
for.
They're rusting, and we've got to do some replacement of them.
That's fine, I just wasn't sure what the note was.
Here, I'll add more letters for the council.
I was the same way, Renee. I caught that too.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure what it was.
Okay, recreation. We were basically, taking it back to what it was before. This year is kind of a weird year. And there's probably a good chance that a lot of that will not be used if we don't have any recreation programs. But right now it's just, we just don't know what we're going to be doing. I know we were planning on doing some concerts in the park, and so probably won't be happening, but yeah, that's still trying to keep it around that area. I think at one point it was up to about 120,000, so it's still down 50,000 from what it was at one point. Municipal road aid, right now the revenue's down because gas prices are down, so that may come in lower. Then on the next page, so the municipal road aid is normally like putting salt down for snow. That's in here. If there's any, little spot paving, joint crack sealing, that kind of thing, that's usually in here. There is a Kenton County joint project, the Bromley Crescent Springs Road project, that is a number of cities, and we were all contributing. So that's in there. It was supposed to be happening. I think the state now is backing out of their commitment. Is that true, Mayor?
Yeah, there is issues there. I mean, we've kind of pledged this. I think this is the 4th year that we pledged money. I've never spent it, but it is for some sidewalks and reconstruction in our portion of that. But yeah, the state is kind of backing out, and I don't know what's going to happen.
So that there's a good, that may not be spent. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. We have some orphanage sidewalk wrap up costs there. But for the most part, that's done. And then the two things that we have in the municipal road aid is a safety project study around Beechwood School. It's not the safest for kids starting in and out with the cars blocking, and it's hard to see the kids when they cross the street. And so I know they've been doing a study. Andrew's had a lot to do with that, and Councilwoman Nockazel also has
That's another one that's ongoing.
Yeah, that's ongoing. And then the Beechwood Road sidewalk from Grandview to Fort Mitchell Place. I think there's a grant in 2024, so there might be just some initial engineering costs for that. So that's what that $20,000 is.
For engineering.
Yeah, is it engineering exactly, Mayor or Andrew?
I know we've done some engineering on there. I think that was sort of, we put that money in there just as a possibility if there's anything else we have to do to be eligible for that grant. So it is you're right, it's a 2024 grant, but we have to apply for that next month.
Agree.
At the bottom of page 9 is the park fund. As of right now, just to let you know, the park it's available for walking, but that's about it, you know. Yeah, actually Kyle the park director hasn't even been working or working very little, just because the park is, you know, not being used, but it'll be opening up soon. So he'll start working back up. But the main thing is that $900,000 the renovation with the $475,000 loan from the city.
And with our meeting next week with the park board, I mean, that's what we're going to try to figure out, if they're going to do anything. You know, if they're not, we're going to pull it back out of the budget. I'm going to at least push them to do some asphalt, the parking area, to expand that because it's really needed, and maybe do the pavilion and the restrooms and stay within, you know, their means. I think they had the right plan of looking at it to begin with and said, let's just get it all done. Let's do it once. The economy of scale, but maybe they can't do it or figure out what their phase, but I'll have a better idea next week.
Okay.
Sorry, I have to leave. I told Jamie that I was gonna have to leave at 6:55, so I have someone else who has a meeting at 7 in my household.
Gotcha. Thank you, Renee.
Thank
So
you.
sorry.
Thanks, Renee.
Email me with any questions.
Bye,
you have.
Renee.
Thank you.
Okay, the next is the road tax fund. So you can just see the list of jobs or the, you know, reconstruction projects, replacement, resurfacing projects that we have listed. So it's still pretty, you know, there's still a lot there. So as always, the city is committed to, you know, making sure the roads are safe and, you know, and in good condition. So does anybody have any questions about any of the road projects?
They've all been awarded correctly. Is that right?
No.
Ridge has been awarded.
Ridge has been awarded.
Ridge, Coleman, and
West Orchard.
West Orchard, and then Highlands
Highland,
has been awarded.
Okay.
Highland Oak and Anthony.
But like Watch Hill, that has not.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, anything
That'll-
below.
Yeah, Watch Hill will be probably second half of the fiscal year.
Okay. So then on page 12, we have the capital replacement fund. So we have $50,000 in there for miscellaneous sidewalks. And I think, I think I don't know if they've done or they're planning to do a sidewalk inventory. So, I think there's some sidewalk that's, a hazard. So they just want to start improving those sidewalk patches that need to be, replaced. A lot of the work that we had in miscellaneous building expenses, we budgeted last year, did not get completed this year. I mean, we were planning to do a lot of it at this time frame, but with COVID, everything kind of just got put on hold. So that was all pushed to next year. So I think we talked about that, but there's the dorms for the firefighters, the fire HVAC and windows need to be replaced. The gate and the fence, is that a new one or a replacement?
Public Works, that's, we acquired some additional land next to the Public Works building, and so the fence needs to be moved to reflect that. And then there's the fence along the parking lot between the city building and the houses on Silver is in pretty poor shape at this point. So it's replacement of the entire sort of what I would call the Public Works fence.
Yeah, and then there's some council room technology, and then the phone system. Our phone system is really old, and now it will no longer be supported. So when phones start going down, we'll have to buy them on some kind of market, like black market, or something. So we're going to have to go out for bid for a phone system. So that's going to be, I don't know if it'll be that high, but I'm not sure yet how much, but that'll be going out. And we will also be going out to bid for our IT services. So the two of those, we're going to do those together. You know, it may be the same company, it may not, but they work a lot together. So we are doing that pretty soon here. And then every year the police department replaces 2 vehicles. And every so many years, I think it's every 7 years, we do 3.
7th, we do 3, yeah.
Something.
Which puts our vehicles
So
on
that's-
a 7-year life cycle.
Yeah, that's on our capital replacement plan. We have also ordered a Quint, which is a shorter fire truck that has a ladder on it. So that's already in process. And then our second ambulance will be replacing. So that's in the budget. Then there's 30 turnout gear that is in the budget for $90,000. And then some radios for, I'm not sure if the radios will receive this year that we're in now, the amended budget, or next year. It'll just be spent in one of them, but I do have them in both because I'm not sure if it will be received by June 30th. So that's the
Amy,
department radios.
Turnout gear. Amy, the turnout gear we did, didn't we just do a order for a municipal order for or a resolution for a grant for that we're hoping for? Wasn't that part of the turnout gear or not? Trying to.
I don't remember
The
that.
grant, yeah, I'll find out. I think the resolution that we did this past meeting was for the retention and recruitment. It was 100%.
Yeah, there was volunteer. I don't remember the turnout gear being.
Okay, I know we've done those in the past, and 90,000 is a lot of money. I just want to make sure that Adam's looked at grants, because we've had those covered in the past, but those are really hard to come by anymore.
Yeah, and Andrew talked to Adam today, the fire chief, about the turnout gear use. So why don't you explain that, Andrew?
So the best practices for firefighter turnout gear is that each full-time firefighter have 2 sets of turnout gear, because it has to do with cancer prevention with firefighters. Basically, if they go on a fire call, the turnout gear they wore on that call should be immediately washed. The problem with that is, you know, if you take a crew, so we have 5 people working together, they go out on a structure fire, all 5 come back and they're washing their turnout gear, and we get another call, they have no gear to wear. So we're without, until that gear is washed and dried, we're without gear. The other issue is running into is because our volunteer numbers are actually coming back up a little bit, we don't have enough gear for the volunteers that are coming on. Now, they'll get 1 set, the volunteers get 1 set, and typically it's a hand-me-down set of gear. But, you know, Adam's, he's done his research on this, and I, you know, it makes sense. I don't pretend to be a scientist when it comes to firefighter and cancer prevention, or a doctor or anything, but you know, when it's the best practice and it has to do with that and their health, I think it's important.
Okay, so that's pretty much it for the budget. Does anybody have anything to say?
Good work.
No. No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy,
Amy.
I
so
don't-
just what's the total increase or decrease? I know you said, based upon the COVID numbers, we were expecting 10% less in revenues. Do we know what we're gonna look
So,
at to
like-
get the 10% out of the budget?
So that's the thing is some of the revenue went down 10%, but it was off by it was offset by the utility franchise fees that were new and the new contract revenues. So the actual like general fund revenues, are staying pretty consistent. And they're actually not taking a dip because of that new revenue. And then also with not making the transfer to the road tax fund, that's an additional 300,000. So that offsets any expense increases. So for this year, I think we'll be okay.
Okay, yeah, I was just, curious. Obviously, yeah, I mean, I guess we had the franchise fee, which we were already spending on the excess retirement funds we owe. But I think at this point, we can wait and see what materializes. I just didn't, I didn't see anything that would easily be cut out. I know, no disrespect to our firemen and police officers. Hopefully they get their raises. I know our company already sent out the no bonuses, no raises memo on March 13th, and so did my wife's and my brother's. So just something to consider. I think a lot of people are working hard, but when everything's shut down for 3 or 4 months, we can't count on necessarily the federal government to drop everybody money the whole time.
Okay. I will note that. Okay, I think that's really about it.
There any other questions? Comments? I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank
Opposed?
you all.
Thank
Stay
you.
healthy.
Everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Take
Amy.
care.
Thank you all so
Thanks,
much for your
Amy.
time, Amy. Great job.
Yep.
Hey,
Stay
Jude.